Welcome back, everyone. Greg Essenmacher here, but you know who I am, right? Today, I'm welcoming on the show my friend Spencer Walker. Spencer is from Dental Implant Machine. Wait, don't change, don't fast forward, don't delete your podcast. He's not going to do a sales pitch with you today. We're going to talk about everything that I know and love, Full Arch, and what he knows and loves, and probably knows a little bit more than I do. Wait, I don't know. Spencer, do you know more than I do in this? Let's
I
let's
don't
do a
know if I
head.
do.
Let's do a head-to-head matchup. Let's do this. Mervs, when you put this up, Mervs is my producer. When you put this up on social media, let's do like one of those running tickers that they do now that it's political season, where it's like during a debate, it's like, is it the blue line or is it the red line? So people can like push like which number, which person like they like more at any particular time. So anyway, enough of that craziness. Spencer Walker helped establish and grow the largest dental implant-specific marketing and case acceptance training organization, Dental Implant Machine. They are widely recognized as having helped more dental implant doctors streamline their full arch rehabilitation. We should have a bell every time we say full arch. Marketing and case acceptance, and achieve $1 million plus production levels than any other agency. Spencer's a dynamic marketing and business strategist, and many of the programs and tools he helped pioneer become proven models and industry-wide standards. This is true. I respect him. He is passionate about helping doctors establish and scale their practices to ultimately improve their lives while changing patient smiles and lives for the better every single day. Spencer, buddy, welcome to the program, man.
Thank you. I've been waiting for you to say full arch again so I can say ding, ding, ding.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to say full arch again because I really don't want to hear
Ding,
the
ding,
bell ring. I knew this was going to be trouble when I invited you on. I'm like, oh no, not Spencer and I together in one room, one space. It's one virtual room at least. Absolutely. Well, let me start here. I love to hear people's origin story. How did you end up in the dental space? Because usually there's a fun story behind it. And if yours isn't fun, then we're going to delete it out and edit it out, and we'll just go to a different question.
Okay. Yeah, it's actually a funny story. So I had my own little company as an outsourced marketing director for a bunch of small businesses. One of them being a dentist. And I was introduced to this guy who had this little agency doing some digital marketing. And I hired him to run some ads in behalf of my client. And the client wanted to focus on dental implants. And so me and this guy put our heads together and developed a dental implant marketing campaign. So if you've ever seen like a dental implant pricing and information guide, well, we brought that to the industry from that meeting years ago. And I wrote the very first one and the email sequence with it and all that good stuff. And so from that, it was things took off. It worked really well. And he's like, I think we should go after dentists. And he's like, why don't you come over and help me do this? And so we joined forces and never looked back. And that's where we are today, having scaled into this. And we've learned a lot along the way. I think we got our start just like basically getting leads and flinging them over the fence and saying good luck. And because it's high ticket, as you know, Greg, like that's not enough. You know, there's a lot more to full arch, to doing full arch than just getting a lead and throwing it over the fence to somebody. And so we've evolved, and that's the stuff I get really excited about. It's the big picture.
Well, and there is in full arch, there's so much more to it. And there are some companies that literally are just lead generation, right? They'll get you the leads and they will fling it over the fence, and, you know, good luck with that. And we work with clients at G&A Consult like that, where we then help our clients then take those leads and, you know, take that wide funnel and work it down into what are the real leads that are worthwhile, right? That are actual leads. And then how do you qualify those leads, and at what level do you qualify those leads? And that's what I really like about what you've developed at Dental Implant Machine for clients, because you have your recommended system, right? You have your recommended process that you say, look, you can do what you want to do. We're not going to tell you that you have to do it this particular way. However, we know what works really well for clients we have helped to get into that $1 million club. I think you call it the 2 comma club, right? So we know what we've been able to do. And it's the same way with the G&A method. Like, we know that this has worked for many, many, many of our clients. You can go your own route, and some of our clients do, and they butt their head up against the wall, and then we look at the metrics and it can be challenging. You can still be successful in more than one way. However, this is a way that we know that works really, really well for many of our clients. So I want to ask you this one, just from the entire full arch community. Yeah, thank you for putting together those educational pamphlets. And if you don't hear the sarcasm in my voice, then you don't hear the sarcasm in my voice. The reason why I say that is so often doctors that are getting into full arch, they will talk to, because there's so many marketing companies out there that believe that they know full arch, and they believe that it's, well, if you get somebody who gets engaged with an initial inquiry, fill out this form and you get a bucket of leads and you send out this educational pamphlet and it'll be like 22 pages. Well, you're educating the public, and that's all well and good. Are you looking on the education side, or are you trying to find shoppers? There's really a big difference between the two, right? And it doesn't mean that it's bad, good, or indifferent, but know what you're going after. And if you have a limited marketing spend, know what you're trying to spend. If you're going to spend $3,000 on full arch marketing, and that's all you're going to spend on specific full arch marketing, do yourself and the rest of us a favor and don't. Just going to say it there, right? Because, and you're laughing. Now tell me why you're laughing, because I know you and I have the same philosophy here.
Yeah, no, that's funny. It's just, well, and I'm going to answer that with a little bit longer of a story.
Please.
Because what we're seeing in the marketplace is, that 3K was great a couple years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. And, so COVID happened, the economy got shut down. Government tried to, jumpstart it by injecting $5 trillion into the economy, and it did. And people had cash, falling out of their pockets. And it was like a blind dental implant doctor could do cases. It was fairly easy. I say that facetiously, but like it was fairly easy at that time to get somebody in. There was less competition and just a lot of money in the market. And so people were doing that until lately, where inflation's gone up. And, if you think about the average person buying full arch, it's a blue collar worker earning 50 to 70, maybe 80K a year, right? Like hasn't been to a dentist in a few years and nearing retirement. Proceed says average age of applicants is 55. And so, when you start looking at that person, inflation put the squeeze on them. And when the Fed increased the interest rate, and all of a sudden implants cost more now because to borrow that money costs more. And I saw a stat from an implant company recently where they said 90% of their implants that their doctors are selling are bought using financing. And so that's pretty fascinating, and you think about it, like, in other words, the pie's kind of shrunk. And then there's more mouths that want a bite of a pie. Every weekend, there's another implant doc who is getting their implant wings. There's another center opening up. Everybody wants in on it. Another thing, I spoke recently with Dave Rohr, CEO of Proceed, and he said when that money poured into the economy and everybody had cash flowing out of their pockets and they got used to living at a little bit higher lifestyle than they were before. And then inflation hit and they didn't want to stop living at that lifestyle level. And so consumer debt has spiked. And with consumer debt spiking, debt to income ratios are getting out of whack and FICO scores are dropping, which means, and for those who are listening, you may have noticed that there's fewer people getting qualified financially on the back end. And so you put, and so we have these patients who are doing 2, 3, 4 consults because they're more cautious in how they spend their money. A lot of them, once they do finally try to go forward, find that their debt to income ratios are out of whack and they can't go forward. And then there's just a lot of options for them. And so 3K in it, that's probably the average cost across the nation, around 3,000 to 3,500 to acquire one full arch patient is around there. And so it's, if you're going to put 3K in, there's not a lot there. And it depends on where you are too, because that might be under what you need. And then you're doing one maybe every other month. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's just not a lot. It just won't pay you back a lot of dividends,
Well, yeah, and when you look at the average arch acquisition cost, there's so many factors that go into it, right? So it has to do with how well developed is your team, what is your geography, how long is your pipeline, because you have those that you can resurface 3, 6 months later, and you're not going to go back and revise your numbers. Most don't, at least. But I think that what you've also talked about too with the credit scores, that individuals are leveraged a lot more than they were 2, 3 years ago, right? And the finance charges are a lot higher because the cost of money is a lot greater. But something that you were talking about, and yet love the folks at Proceed because they're really good with the numbers, and there's many other third-party lending companies out there as well to be able to help finance these cases. Because if you think about it, you do a full mouth rehab for 40, 50, $60,000. Typically, it's a 10-year commitment for $600 or $700 a month. Think about what that does to a family budget and the commitment obligations. Your team better be pretty lockstep in line. You better have what you need if you're going to be successful at it. And that's why I was being a little facetious. So I didn't mean to offend anyone, but I do from time to time. And that's okay. It's my Detroit roots, and get over it. Go Lions. So, but one of the things that you talked about, right, was a patient avatar. And we work with our clients on patient avatars. So the one you described, certainly the blue collar, 50 to 80,000, 55 years of age, average age of those applying for financing. But then you also see another category of folks, which I call them the piecemeal mouth, right? That they have, a root canal with the crown, and they have a bridge, and they have a missing tooth, all in the same arch of interest. And suddenly now it's that conversation with Betty and saying, it's time. We finally have to do something with it, because they've spent so much money trying to do this tooth and that, number 3 and number 7 and number 9 and number 4. And let's just finally take care of that arch, right? Make that final, because they've already probably spent more money over the last 5 to 10 years just trying to save the teeth, which is noble in and of itself. But now it's time to do, a permanent fix once and for all, so they can actually have that restoration that they're looking for. And then you have another category, which let's just rip off the Band-Aid and talk about it. And that's those that are in the recovery community. And that age, talking about a wide span of age, these are individuals who maybe have hit some type of ceiling in their career because they've got the janky mouth, right? They made some bad decisions when they're younger. Spencer, we've talked about this. I got sober at the age of 33, made some very sketchy choices up until that point. I've been on the sobriety path for 19 years now. But those that have had that experience, typically they don't have the best oral health. And if they chose certain drugs or whatever the case may be, if they get moving in their career and they've been sober or clean for a period of time, they're going to hit the ceiling, and they're going to need to do something with their oral health. And after, 3, 4 years, they're probably not at a financial place where they can do it alone and would need to finance something and need to find a cosigner or somebody, family member, who maybe now looks at them and says, you know what? I see that you really are committed and dedicated after many years of not being a responsible member of society. So these patient avatars that I talk about, these are what we work with clients as well, is because there's a different need base and a different way to make an emotional connection with these types of patients, right? And I know I'm oversimplifying, but I think it's important to be able to understand in full arch why it's so different from a single implant or other types of procedures when you're talking about $3,000 or $5,000 for a procedure than it is when you're talking $25,000, $30,000, $50,000, $60,000 for a procedure. Are you finding that with clients that you're working with, and the team members and the growth partners on your team that you're working with as well?
Oh yeah, 100%. And something you just said there is that it's, you know, those avatars that you just described, all of them are going to have typically bigger emotions than the average patient. And so, a lot of those, or at least two of those avatars that you just described are going to have bigger financial barriers or issues, as well. And so if you think about that, like, we have what we call our full arch framework, which aligns really well with, what you teach and the frameworks that you teach, which is why I think we get along so well. It's very, like, there's patterns of success, and if you follow those patterns, right, you're successful. And so inside our framework, one of the 3 pillars is closing. And that's a part that's so overlooked. We say it's probably 80% of the success is building that closing team. And I know, Greg, you guys spend a ton of time invested in building that patient journey, getting the team trained to follow the process to make sure that you can streamline taking patients through that journey and getting them in the chair, moving forward with treatment. And the average person working in a dental office isn't equipped. I mean, think about all the training that a doctor goes into just to learn how to deal with implants. Would you ever put an associate into an implant surgery that had never done implant surgery or trained on that before? No, right? Because there's nuances to it. There's more to it than just standard dentistry. Now you take Sweet Susan, who's really good at standard dentistry. She can help, like a treatment coordinator who can take a crown, who can help a patient get into some teeth whitening or get a cavity fixed or whatever. And then all of a sudden you put this person in front of them who probably hasn't been to the dentist in a while, who's dealing with a lot of shame, a lot of embarrassment, a lot of like psychological issues as well as financial issues, and then say, hey, by the way, get them to spend, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 something dollars on something that insurance probably isn't going to cover, and convince them that this is the best thing for their health,
Yeah, it's totally different, and that's
without
what.
any training, no more
Yeah,
specialized
just
training. It's
throw them
just
in
like,
there. Yeah.
yeah, good luck in there. It's like, put them in the ring, it's like, let's go.
Well, and that's really where Dental Implant Machine separates itself from a lot of the other marketing companies that are out there, right? Because there is training that's available, and it's not just here's a booklet or here's a script, right? It's more of here's the concepts that we're trying to help walk you through in order to maximize and get the return on investment for your marketing dollars. Right. Because I mean, you can go the route with G&A Consult and bring us in to be able to customize the training and the one-to-one that we do, which is, the top level, right? This is really what we do to be able to come in and triage for 6 months typically at a time with proposals that we do. But with what you do at Dental Implant Machine is here's what we know to be true. Here are the pillars of our success that we see other clients of ours that we work with, but also here's our training, our foundational training that we know that works. And then you work with your growth specialist on here's some of the things that we can triage that you can do better at. And I think that's really where some of the pieces are differentiating for what you do in the marketplace. So how did all of this evolve? So I just a little bit about the company and your role in the company and all that, because I think that could be helpful for people to understand as well. Because there are so many, like you said, that you said, or maybe I said, I don't know, we've talked quite a bit that they sprout up all the time, or you see them on the Instagram stories, and you only pay for cases that actually close, and we'll get you 20 new implant arch consultations in the next month, or else it's free. And there's so many of these used car salesman type marketing promotional offers out there, I guess is how I would frame that. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, I think the success, I mean, you mentioned earlier our 2 Comma Club award. So when a doctor does $1 million through us, we induct them into the 2 Comma Club and give them an award, and we celebrate. And so, and we've helped more. And then every time they hit that again, we renew that. We send them this plaque, and then we send them this little piece of the plaque that says it has 2 commas on it. And so the second time they hit it, it says 2 commas X2, 2 commas X3, et cetera. And we have clients that are doing this over and over and over again. And on average, our clients hit the 2 Comma Club, or we have a client hit the 2 Comma Club every 8 days. And so, and it's because of the framework. And so, we've been teaching principles for a long time. Like I said, early on, it was just throw leads over the fence. But as we've gone through this, we've realized out of necessity to help doctors be successful, it takes more than just getting a lead out there. And so we can do that. And especially in this marketplace that we mentioned before. And I want to say that it seems all doom and gloom, the beauty of it is that you can be successful. We have clients who are having the best months they've ever had. And how is that? And it's by following these principles, that we call the full arch framework. So just to kind of describe this, basically we went and looked at our top performing doctors and realized they were all doing certain things. There was a pattern, right? And we molded it into this full arch framework. So foundationally, you have to have clinical and operations in place. If you have those two things, and that's one of the things, Greg, I love. Like some of our top performing doctors are working with you or have worked with you in the past, and they have been able to improve their business structure and operations, which then allows them to scale. And you've come in and streamlined that for them and helped them, and now they can run. You know, they were limping along before, now they're running, and it's fantastic to watch that. So that's a foundation piece. We don't do those things. We rely on amazing people like you to support them in that type of capacity. And then on top of that, to scale, you need what we call authority architecture, marketing architecture, and closing architecture. And we talked about closing, but the other pieces are authority and marketing. Authority is all the good stuff that sets you apart. So what do you do when implants becomes a commodity? Do you remember, Greg, a few years back when there were one or two doctors doing Invisalign and they were charging like 8K?
Oh yeah.
And now today, everybody's got their clear aligner version. It's like
So
4K
many
average,
competitors out there, right?
right?
You know, every
I've seen
Tom,
them
Dick, and
down to like
Harry. Yep.
2K. Oh my goodness, it's just crazy. So, what do you do when implant starts becoming a commodity? Is it a race to the bottom, or is there a way
Some do.
to?
Trust me. I've seen those
It's
arches
happening.
out there for some. I'm not even going to say the numbers because, you know, it make people's eyes roll in the back of your head. But yeah, it's either the quality, which that's, you know, elevating your team to talk about the value, right, that you deliver, or you race to the bottom. And I'm just going to tell you, I don't buy my food at the dollar store. I'll leave it at
Yeah.
that.
So, if you think about like that authority, a unique value proposition, why should I choose you over somebody else? And not just well, we care more, you know, not this fluffy stuff, like something solid. There's a solid, unique reason why I should choose you, especially if, remember, these people are getting second, third, fourth opinions. And so if they come to you, whether second, third, or fourth, or first, and then they go somewhere else, that unique value proposition that's unique is going to stick in their mind. And they're like, well, I can't get that thing anywhere else, right? And there's ways to do that. And sometime we should do another episode and just talk about that because there's so much that could be done right there. But social proof, video testimonials, smile reveals, ratings and reviews, and educational content. And this is one that often gets overlooked. If a doctor just pulls out their phone and just starts recording, hey guys, this is an implant. Here's the implant. This is an abutment. This is the crown. This is how this works, right? And just do some videos like that teaching. This is the difference between dentures, the pros and cons between dentures and a full arch of implants. And you start creating content like that and sharing it on your site and online, people look at you as an authority. You will differentiate yourself. And so that's the kind of stuff you can imagine if you created this type of stuff and the clinic down the street doesn't have it, which one's going to be the bigger magnet? You, right? You're going to get people to like and trust you more. And this is how you differentiate and how you compete when implants becomes a commodity, right? It's like you have to set the doctor up. You have to set the process up. You have to, show that differently, right? And then marketing is going to, obviously, the marketing pillar is going to vary. I will share just some things that we've seen. Some of the highlights. Pay-per-click is a go-to. It's so easy to just turn it on and get leads out. And so we definitely frequently recommend pay-per-click marketing. Once you have that, the second thing is SEO. We definitely recommend SEO with a solid website because over time that can turn into something where, every lead doesn't cost you incrementally anymore like pay-per-click does. And so, but it's like planting seeds rather than sod. And so that's typically why we recommend pay-per-click first and then SEO. And then get up into like OTT. Those are like TV ads on streaming devices. It's more efficient and targeted than TV is. And then TV, radio. Those are typically the things that we're recommending to clients, and kind of in that order, in terms of efficiency and ability to just, turn and scale. And so things that we have seen just as an agency that have not worked tremendously well or consistently across everybody are mailers. In some markets it's worked, in other markets it hasn't worked as well. Billboards. The only client I've ever seen that had success with billboard, they had billboards up for like a decade. And and now people are like, oh yeah, I've seen your billboards, now that they've been up for so long, it's finally like paying dividends for them. And so those are two things that I see out there that haven't been tremendously successful. But anyway, marketing and closing. So if you have all these components in place, you will dominate. You'll tend to hit your goals or beyond. And if you're not hitting your goals currently, go back through each of those and say, like, what am I missing? Because you have a hole in your bucket, right? You're missing components, because our clients that have the majority of these things in place are the ones who are having the greatest success.
Yeah, and I love that you talk about what I call the cascading effect in marketing, right? Those that you have found your most successful clients, of where they start and then where they lead to next, to be able to bring in the most efficient and the most effective ROI. So absolutely. And then you also mentioned, which what I love as well, is the differentiation piece, right? Developing your USPs, your unique selling proposition, and then how do you differentiate from the guy down the street? Because there's literally a full arch a doctor on every corner, it seems now, compared to where it was 5 years ago. So I think that was very savvy for you to point out as well. All right, Spencer, time of the program. Every one of my guests play a little something called What the Sleuth is Going On? 3 rapid fire questions. First thing that comes to mind. Are you ready to play?
Okay. Yeah, I'm nervous now, man. Okay, here we go. Let's do it.
Little build up there. Yeah, I like it. All right, question number 1. What's the worst bad breath you've ever encountered?
Oh, the worst, my dogs. Yeah.
What are you feeding your dogs, or where are they licking?
Yeah, I think you can imagine, but it is bad. It is bad.
I like that you won't say it out loud. We all know the answer to that for sure, at least the second part. That goes back to a private conversation that you and I will take offline. Oh, question number 2. If you could change one thing about your smile, what would it be?
This tooth right here is, and it's literally like, I've had braces, but it literally like grew in crooked, and he got it to the point where he could get it as straight as possible, but in order to get it any straighter, like the root would have to be moved. So maybe I need an implant there.
Hashtag YouTube moment for all of you who are listening on the audio device. Timestamp 27 minutes.
Yeah.
Hop over to
Covering
YouTube.
my mouth now.
He's like pushing. He's like lifting up his cheek. He's like pointing to the my tooth. What was that? Tooth number 10, 11? 10.
I don't know the numbers, man.
Yeah, I think it's number 10. Yeah. It's leave it to the non-clinical people to not know their tooth numbers. For shame. Let's shame him here on the Tooth Sleuth podcast. Shame on Spencer
Remember
Walker.
earlier when you were talking about the like the scale? Yours just blew through the roof. You just won the most knowledgeable.
Yeah. Oh no, yeah, my line just went way up and yours went way down. People are definitely dinging you on that one. Okay, question number 3. If you could go back and be the inventor of any dental product, and no, you can't use your framework or anything you've invented, which one would you choose and why?
Dental implants. I would. I think it's like the most life-changing of all things, I mean, there's teeth whitening, there's, like, okay, fill a cavity. That's great. Maybe filling cavities more, I don't know. But like, I've seen the pictures, the videos, I've seen these people just crying and the joy that they experience, and that it's so close to natural teeth, both in appearance, function, biting force, that it's amazing. It's truly a miraculous invention.
Patient Reveal is what really changed the direction of my career in dental some 10 plus years ago. So I agree with you 100%. Well, Spencer, in the last few minutes, because I want to respect your time and my listening audience, is there anything I haven't asked you that you'd like to share with them?
I'm going to share just one quick thing on a unique value proposition. Okay. And the beauty of this is that, or a unique selling proposition, same thing. People call it
the difference between somebody who's a consultant in sales and somebody who's a marketer, the S or the P.
Yeah. So sometimes when we talk about this, doctors will be like, they usually go to the soft stuff, where it's like, well, we care more or whatever. But one of the easiest way, like, that's not going to fly. That's, that nobody's going to believe that you care more than the person down the street, unless you really somehow in your meeting with them really demonstrated that. But that's not going to draw people in from the outside because they're not going to believe that you're any different. They haven't met you yet, And so, like, if you're, whatever you say in your marketing, like, one of the easiest ways to create a unique value proposition is just to put your name on your process. And the beautiful thing is that it can be exactly the same process or protocol or the steps you take, whatever, that everybody else does. But one of the fastest and easiest things is just to put your name on it. The Patel protocol, well, the guy down the street doesn't, the Patel protocol, it's Dr. Patel's 25-step process that he goes through to ensure every patient gets the most beautiful smile. It's his proprietary protocol, right? And to get the most beautiful smile, most natural looking smile. And he has developed this protocol to change smiles in lives, and here's evidence of it. Here, look at these smiles that he's created using his proprietary protocol, right? Well, even if somebody else down the street's using the same steps, this is yours. It belongs to you and it has your name on it. And the cool thing about that is psychologically, services, to understand this just really quick, services are a promise of something that's going to happen in the future. And so when you can't pick it up and taste it, you can't try it on to see if it fits. And so it's harder for a person to perceive value in a service because it's a promise of something that's going to happen in the future. And so when you name that service something and you describe it, you give it a name and you describe it somewhat, all of a sudden the human brain can wrap its mind around it and the value perception goes up. And all of a sudden you can be unique and stand out. Some doctors, there's a doctor that I know, the Berlin smile, the dream smile, sometimes they'll name it, and give something like that. You probably heard of like G4 by Golpa. Some people have come up with a brand or a name. They name the smile or they name the protocol. And then they talk about that and build the value around that and say, here's, when you buy X, this is what you get with it. That we're going to follow these steps and you get this, this, and this, And now all of a sudden people are like, when they go down the street, they're like, yeah, I'm going back to Dr. Patel because he's got his Patel protocol, or, Dr. Berlin, because he's got the Berlin smile, and these guys don't have that, So anyway, that's just we could dive way more into that, but I wanted to share that because I think that's really important. And especially in today's market where implants are becoming more and more of a commodity with the increased competition that's occurring out there. And this will really help you stand out. And with people shopping around more, this is a way to really differentiate and capture more of that market. So
certainly you're sharing value, right? Whether it's real or perceived, you're sharing value in the marketplace for clinicians to be able to utilize and differentiate themselves. I appreciate you sharing that. That's really helpful for listeners to hear. I'm sure there's a lot of people that were jotting that down or are going to rewind and listen to it again and take notes on that. So thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you so much. Spencer Walker has been my guest on the Two Sleep podcast here today. Thank you, sir. It's always a pleasure talking to you.